5 guys who'd been killed at Fob Inkerman, actually, which was up the Helmand Valley, and 5 guys had been hit in one go. And I remember the stretchers coming over the ramp, and sorry, I'm gonna get emotional. They were all covered in flags. So there was a Rifles flag on one of the bodies, a Union Jack on one, a Welsh flag on one of them, and each body had a different flag on it. And there's nothing you can say to those guys that's going to make that better.
What can you compare being in combat to? How does it feel?
There's nothing.
Yeah.
You can't compare it to anything. The adrenaline, the way you feel, you I don't know, you laugh sometimes when you're in the you nervous laugh because you're in the
had to.
Yeah.
You become immune to it, I think, over the years. From when I first got to Afghanistan, you know, we'd go into some landing sites that had been either mortared or rocketed the day before, or like some of the FOBs that had been in contact that morning, and then we were allowed to go in. And then as Herrick got more kinetic, we would then, for some of the merch outs, for some of the guys who were T1, so that's the worst kind of injury, and we had to get them out because they had an hour to live, we would then have to go in while the landing site was still under contact. But it became normal. Your normality bar for fear, if that makes sense, kind of started to climb over the years, and certainly for guys who've done multiple tours. By the time you're sat and there's bullets whizzing past you, it kind of feels normal.
In Albania and Yugoslavia, it's like these people, you know, Afghan and Iraq. 9 times out of 10, we didn't know who our enemies were because they weren't in uniform. And the rules of engagement, which they told us we had to do, we had to wait for them to fire on us before we fired on them.
Hasn't changed.
Yeah,
which was completely ridiculous. Yeah. Because you could have a farmer digging his trenches and he'd have a machine gun in his, and he'd just open fire first. So it's a different type of warfare, behind enemy lines especially.
That's really interesting hearing John say that, because say Craig's nodding and Toby will get this too. The Taliban switched onto that. They were really clever, and we used to land at some sites and they'd have an RPG and point it at us, and as long as if they put it down and walked away, we couldn't shoot them, even though we knew they had lethal intent towards us. Unless they physically aimed at the aircraft, we couldn't do anything about it, which meant that they could go and collect it, pick it up again, and fire it at these guys. But because the rules of engagement were so strict and it was self-defense, you know, you could only ever pull the trigger if you had honest belief that you were going to get shot at, and it put you in a very catch-22 scenario.
Is there one kind of memory which you would say stuck with you? If you can identify one, what would that be, do you think?
What memory sticks in your mind?
What memory sticks in my mind? In what way? What, the memories during the war, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think the memory which sticks in my mind is the comradeship, which you don't get in civilian life. And we miss it terribly when we come out of the army. The comradeship, I think, is the most important memory you can have. And all the comrades you've missed out on being killed.
Yeah, I second that. Yeah, banter. You can't beat army banter or marine banter or whatever.
Or RAF banter,
you know.
Especially in special forces, I think there's probably more comradeship than anywhere else.
Yeah. A band of brothers, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because
you're working a close
you're there to help each other. You would never leave a comrade behind if you could help it.
One of the saddest memories that stick with me is their repatriation, where their coffin was carried back to the back of a Hercules, and we were all standing there to attention with our berets on, saluting the coffin, going back to the UK on the back of a Herc. I think that's one of the strongest memories I have, only because it just, it took my breath away. I can't actually describe it. It was just, yeah, it was just, but you talk about a memory that sticks with you. Sometimes it's not always the good memories. It's not always the good memories that stick with you. And I'm sure these guys will agree with me. There's a lot of good memories. There's also a lot of hard memories.
Yeah, I mean, my memory that I always look back on Herrick was we had to go pick up 5 guys who'd been killed at Fob Inkerman, actually, which was up the Helmand Valley, and 5 guys had been hit in one go. And I remember the stretchers coming over the ramp, and sorry, I'm going to get emotional. They were all covered in flags. So there was a Rifles flag on one of the bodies, a Union Jack on one, a Welsh flag on one of them, and each body had a different flag on it. And then the guys set the stretchers down and touched the bodies and went back off into the fight. And there's nothing you can say to those guys that's going to make that better. And that brothership, like that brotherhood, it was so apparent in their faces as they set their mates down on the floor and said goodbye for the last time. And, you know, that's something that brotherhood is just in your blood forever. So, yeah. Sorry. That's it, I'm not.
Do you think you can form the same bond in any other way?
No. Civilians do not understand the way military or ex-military work in their headspace. And I always say PTSD, oh yeah, we all got PTSD, but it's like a train track. You know, there's civilian PTSD and there's military, and it's level because we got PTSD, but it'll never cross because people will never understand this and we will never understand that. Yeah. You know, but it would go parallel with each other.
John, what about you? What about the people you served with?
People that you served with, memories.
Well, unfortunately, my memories aren't all that good. I had a couple of minor strokes and I lost a lot of my memory. But people I served with, I suppose they'll always be in my memory because they were very important. They were my comrades.
Is anyone still around from the people you served with?
People around? No, I think I'm about one of the 2 left, I think. There's only 2 left in my regiment anyway. I'm one of them.